All right, welcome back everyone to the Buyers on Demand podcast. I'm here at a new location. Don't have the studio behind me today. Traveling, but I could never skip this conversation that we have for you today. I am granted, or it's an honor to be here with Drew Cheely. Drew, thank you for joining the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Drew, this is a conversation that, again, no matter where I'm at in the world, I everything that I've learned about you has me super excited for us to talk today.
Yeah.
So, what I know about you, Drew, is that you've been a top producer now for almost 10 years, coming up to maybe 8, 9 years since like
Yeah.
2018. And, when I say top producer, I mean, we're talking from top 25 to top 10 to or top 15 to top 10 to top 1% realtor. You've been able to go from not being able to sell more than 2 homes a year to now pacing to almost 50 this
Yeah.
year. And I know that before your real estate endeavors that you followed your passion and were a sports coach, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And I know that you have a lot of experience when it comes to content creation. And so when I hear all of these terms, the coaching, the content creation, you working with Tom Ferry, as well as you being a consistent top producer, these are all things that align perfectly with what this podcast is about.
Yeah.
And for anyone that's new here on this podcast, this is the Buyers on Demand podcast. I'm your host. What we do on this podcast is we talk to as many realtors as possible and expose marketing secrets. I use the word expose because we live right now in a day and age where, unfortunately, we have a lot of lead vendors out there that try to target new agents and say, hey, I have a secret system that, whatever, blah, 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 can get you to your goals, and it's behind a paywall, or you have to pay me for these types of leads or for this activity. And we've found time and time again that the agents that are consistently killing it are doing a lot of the times just the basics, but at a very high volume and for a long period of time. And so, again, this podcast is to share as much of our lessons as possible so that for new agents listening, you don't have to feel like you're trapped, that you have to go to a lead vendor for your lead source, or you have to go and hire a marketing company to help you grow your business. Because I'm sure, Drew, what we're going to talk about in this call is that you've hired mentors and help to help you along the way, as every person should. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to the action that you're willing to take. Is that a fair
Absolutely.
assumption? There you go,
Absolutely.
Drew. Awesome. So, Drew, if you want to take it away for the audience, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you would describe yourself, and then walk us through maybe some of your story prior to real estate.
Yeah. So I'm in Richmond, Virginia. I am got licensed originally 2009. My mother's been a top producing agent for 40 years, so I kind of came in the business after her. Um, First couple years of my career were very slow. Did not sell a house my first year, but picked up my business, a lot of sphere of influence and friends, and sold them early. Uh, Over the first 10 years of my career, I was actually coaching football, high school football and lacrosse, which was great. So enjoyed doing that. And then, so I was, but for a long time in my career, 10 years, I was stuck in the selling 8 houses, 12 houses, 14. And then obviously the market exploded across the country in a lot of places, 2020. So picked up my numbers, to doing 20, 24 sales for those 5 years. And then I made a decision with myself that I wanted to elevate my game in 2025, closed 40 deals, and we're pacing beyond that right now. And the, coaching was great, kind of giving back a little bit. And I see the football helmet on my desk back there, but
Mhm.
coach football, lacrosse, loved working with the guys, being a competitor, but kind of shifted out of that years ago, and excited for obviously all the changes of, in my life and my business, and trying to just do what I can to be the best that I can do today. That's it.
So, in this conversation, Drew, we're going to talk about turning points. We're going to talk about the turning point in real estate, as well as the turning point that I want to talk about first is when you are a sports coach, football and lacrosse,
Yeah.
and you decide, okay, enough is enough. I need to go into real estate myself. Now, you mentioned at the beginning of this story that you have family and familial ties to the real estate world, and that explains the connection between two seemingly opposite ends of the spectrum, sports and real estate.
Right.
But walk us through your mindset. Like what was the turning point for you where you're like, okay, I have been 10 years into doing what I love. Like I'm absolutely passionate about these sports, but I cannot continue doing what I've usually been doing for the past 10 years. What led you to that decision?
Yeah, just that. I mean, I had been doing. I had my license in real estate. It was my full time job, but it was. I'm spending more time watching film than talking to my clients and marketing and networking.
Mm-hmm.
That it just, it was time for that phase of my life to end while no one knows. I mean, there's a picture on my, on the shelf over there of coaching and, undefeated seasons, but trying to, you know, I think there are a lot of parallels with, sports and, and work and business, and
Absolutely.
especially, we'll talk about it, but I've built support around me, which, knowing you don't have to do it all, and coaching and playing sports my whole life, it's, they're team games, right? Unless it's golf or it's tennis, it's team games. So you got to use all different parties to allow everybody to kind of use their strengths, and then what you're weak at, hopefully you have support to do so.
Absolutely. I love what you said about the parallels between sports and business. My career so far, for the vast majority of my time, has largely been in sales. And
Yeah.
sales for me is like I'm always thinking about basketball. I'm always thinking about football. I'm always thinking about, the greats, of course, as a salesperson, um, because a lot of the mentality is the same of just a sheer volume of repetition and consistently trying to get better, doing it for a long period of time, always, trying to improve and always reviewing the game tape or the sales calls and figuring out where did this conversation go left, where did it go right. So I love what you said there, and I can see where a lot of that mindset you have already kind of implanted in yourself by teaching and coaching these guys in sports. It's
Yeah.
very easy to translate over to the business side of the world. Are there any other skill sets, especially because you mentioned coaching too? Are there any other skill sets that you would attribute to some of your success in real estate that you learned during your time as a football and lacrosse coach?
Yeah. I mean, obviously I had some of my role models, Kobe, right? And it's, I had on my board right here, I had this for years, 1 day contract, right? You sign up to be in real estate, you don't have a salary, you got to show up and prove it every day. It's a great time to be doing this. Today is day one, quarter two,
Mm,
and eventually, it doesn't really become effort. It just becomes who you are, how you operate, knowing that this is what Kobe and Tigers, that's a bad example this week, but what you're not competing against anyone. You're only
sure,
competing against yourself from yesterday and yourself from a month ago of,
sure,
measure backwards to know, not just where you're going, but where you've been.
sure. And it's really shows in the success that you're having now in terms of your mindset, because I talk to a fair share of realtors from time to time who, for example, like they'll get in, especially when it comes to content, which we'll transition to shortly.
Yeah.
And people will post, a home tour, maybe 5 to 10 of them. They don't get it as many views as they wanted. They don't get anything from it. And it's almost like a lost cause for some people where they're like, I've tried it. It doesn't work. Especially like when it comes to anything online, when it comes to ads, when it comes to door knocking, when it comes to cold calling, it's like, all right, I've tried it, for a couple days, it didn't work. I've heard that from every single form of outreach, for cold calling, for door knocking, for running paid ads, for posting content. But when you come from this sports background, It's always, let me do more, let me do it better. Kind of like that Kobe, that Kobe mentality that you're describing. So I could definitely see where, just from a mindset perspective, you're already at an advantage because you're willing to stick and endure pain for a longer period than maybe most others. And that was obviously proven to be the case, given what you described earlier, with basically for 9 years up until kind of like 2020. You weren't really crushing it like you were now. It was just this
Yeah.
constant momentum. During those years prior to this turning point, where you go from a couple deals here and there to now you're in the dozens,
Yeah.
how did you stick through the time period? How did you say, you know what, this year wasn't my year, next year will be, or I'll just keep trying? Like, what were some of your
You know, I
yeah.
I always knew where I was gonna get to, which I'm not there yet, right? You're trying. It never. There's no confetti at the finish line because there isn't one, right?
Mm-hmm.
You tackle mountains and then
Mm-hmm.
you go to the next one. But I think you've got to believe in yourself, even when it doesn't look like it in an external life. You know that there's always been something in me, in my heart, in my mind, that I knew where I was going to get to, and it took a lot longer. We're still not there, but you know, a lot of that is, belief that's inside of me, and knowing if you want to change something, if you want things to be different, all right. There's no overnight success. It's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of days of doing the same thing without external results. And I've really tried to start to detach from outcomes, right? Of be all in on the day, execute the day to the best of ability. It's never going to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect, but you detach from outcomes. I know we were talking about content and we'll get to this, but it's not your first video if it goes viral or gets likes or views, or your second or your fifth or your 10th. It's, let's go look at it after 1,000. Then
Yeah.
then you know then you know if
Yeah.
you got something, right?
Exactly. Exactly right. Now, I love this conversation. When we talk about keeping us motivated, keeping us consistent, I'm experiencing that right now, and I've, throughout my time working with different agents, working with previous accounts of mine, um, I've had the experience of what helping create a lot of my previous pages grow to very substantial follower counts, and I'm doing it again with this new one that I've recently created. And I told myself at the beginning of this year that my only goal for 2026 is to post 1 to 3 times a day every single day. That's it. Like, I don't care about the follower counts, I don't care about the likes, the views, etc. um, just 2 months ago I had 200 people that were checking out my page, and now
Yep.
we're growing 100 followers every couple days, which to me is like incredible.
Hmm.
Imagining like 100 people in a room every couple days, it's awesome. And the only thing I'm thinking about is just the inputs. Okay, how do I make this next video better? How do I do it again and again and again and again? So there's just so many parallels with what we're describing when it comes to content, keeping us motivated over the years. And I love what you said, because I think there's a lot of realtors out there that have this overwhelming desire to reach their potential. And it's like, okay, well, what can I do? Like, I want, and I think for a lot of young people, we always think in terms of monetary outcome of like, oh man, I can't wait for me to be making $1 million in GCI. Whereas
Yeah.
what you're saying is like, no, well, okay, well, if we work backwards from there, like, what are the inputs that we have to do every single day to hit that number? And so my question to you is exactly related to what I'm describing to you. What were those inputs that you started to do each day that took you from maybe 2 deals a year to closer to 50 that you're on pace for this year?
So it starts with a decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
It starts with a decision that nothing is gonna get me off track at all. I talked, so again, I did or been in Tom Ferry coaching about a year ago. I I was just working hard every day. I had a big first quarter last year. About a year ago, you got to measure what you're doing and know your numbers. Before about a year and a half ago, I have my whole career on an Excel document but I totaled GCI, right? And so I started tracking literally every dollar of what I'm spending on marketing, what the photos are, the video is, if I got referral fees, what is my net? Hey, you make 150,000, you spend 160,000. That doesn't do you
No good.
much.
Yeah.
But about a year ago, and I still do this every night. I have a Excel document tracked a full year that I know. I go in there and I rate myself for the day. I've got a year tracked of contacts I make in a day. And so I figured out early on, I don't know, year and a half ago, that if I'm talking to 25 people a day, I have more business than I can handle. Therefore, need to hire people to allow more help. But I mentioned to someone of you can rate yourself. You don't have to go do 100 days and rate it. Why don't you go do 3 days? Why don't you go rate how many contacts you make? Did you work out? What were your wins of the day? Playing tomorrow. But I've got an Excel document of a year of, I do it every single night. It's the most powerful part of the day. Every single day, I figure out what I did that day, what worked, what did not work, and let's get ready for tomorrow.
So interesting because I've heard this so many times, this 25 number. So I know it comes from well-researched place. I've heard it multiple times. Actually, on this podcast, we have a couple episodes where realtors
Yeah.
saying like, "I know if I have." Can you break that down a little bit logistically, maybe for newer agents? When you say talk to 25 people a day, do you mean calling 25 people a day or actually having conversations with 25 individuals each day? Like what does
So
that look like?
it can be whatever you want, right? You
Hmm.
develop your own system. I do this every single day. 3 different columns. One column are leads I'm working on, right? One is if I got under contracts, that those count as a touch, and past client sphere, run into someone playing pickleball that we talked real estate. So I track that every day. Whether I just count people I'm having conversations with. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're circle dialing or you're calling for sale by owners, you know, you make touches, that counts. A dial doesn't count, but
Hmm.
someone who you talk to them about something, doesn't have to be about real estate. Um, you know, I count text messages because a lot of communication via text, but voice to voice or face to face is always the best.
Yes.
Um, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but I did figure out that if I hit this number of contacts, then I know my business is going to be busy. And it's like now it is like I have to try to turn it off. I don't turn it off.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. Where I learning that like this is a very recent, as in the last couple weeks thing of,
Hmm.
rest and recovery isn't the opposite of productivity. It allows the productivity to happen.
It's
Um,
amazing.
so,
Amazing.
but it doesn't matter who the contacts are. It starts with, the Tom Ferry thing, 554 of, call 5 of your past clients, call 5 leads and 4 people you don't know. And if you hit those, you start to track your numbers. I was long time ago, I listened to a podcast or a webinar, and the guy said, until you're doing 25 sales a year, you don't really have anything else to do.
Mhm.
So, I mean, this
Yeah.
was Jeff Quinn in New Jersey. You don't have anything else to do. So,
Sure.
and I've done it all. I've done the Vulcan circle dialing. And there's no wrong way, but the 25 is been a magic number for me.
Let's dive into that a little bit. Because I was curious too. You seem exactly like the type that has tried everything under the sun, and I know even just looking at your Instagram, and we'll get to it soon too. You've done webinars, which I'm sure have been very successful for you, as well as you're doing content now. I'm sure you've ran ads in the past. I'm sure you've done pretty much everything
Yeah.
imaginable to generate leads. What does your daily, or I guess there's two questions here. What does your daily inputs look like in terms of? I know you mentioned you're doing 25 conversations, but is there a specific activity that you gravitate towards, such as like cold calling for sale by owners, or calling, doing warm outreach with your sphere of influence? And the second question I have for you is, what outreach strategy or lead generation strategy have you found to be the most effective? I feel like those two are correlated. If you find one to be the most effective, you're probably doing every single day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, well, you hear about time block, and
Hmm.
people have talked about time block. Well, when you get really busy and there's no wasted time. And if you, so getting my numbers, hitting my numbers in the morning, last year I've been a little slacking on it, but hey, it's hard. Everything's hard, right?
Hmm.
So I, my perfect days are always, I'm at the gym. The day, I'm not a morning person at all, but the days I hit an Orange Theory fitness class or a gym session at 6 or 7 in the morning, I'm at my desk by 8 a.m. I'm reaching out to people, processing my deals, trying to use leverage, use delegation, either using transaction coordinators or assistants or teammates or whatever. Uh, so I can be working on, if I hit my numbers in the morning, so by 11, 11:30, 12 o'clock, then it works. When you're talking to people in the morning, for try to solve problems, right? That's real estate agents get paid to solve problems. Everybody, that's the name of the game. So when you're hitting your numbers, your whatever those numbers are, maybe for a brand new agent, it's go talk to 10 people a day.
Hmm.
That go talk to 10 people a day, go host an open house every weekend.
Hmm.
Uh, you talk to that in the morning, then your afternoons you're going to generate appointments. And,
Hmm.
where you try to time block. So I don't take appointments in the morning unless you have, of course, there's always exceptions, but, you know, the morning time is the sacred time of, because then the day gets away from us like it always
Yes,
does.
of course it does. Yeah.
I always want to. I built my business this way of my first clients are friends and family and
Hmm.
their friends. So look, these it's really easy, right? I mean, even if to call people you care about, right? And
Hmm.
you got to care. You don't care because you can get a commission check on it. You care
Hmm.
because you're impacting people's lives. So check in on how's the house going. When it's have systems where on your CRM, when their house anniversary is, call them, be touching base with these people every 30 to 60 to 90 days. When, had last year, I had a past client, someone I cared about very much. I mean, not a dear friend, but, had a great relationship and saw they sold a $700,000 house and bought $1 million plus house. Well, guess what? There's the one person to point the finger to, and I'm happy for them with that relationship. But I hadn't called them in, I don't know, a year. So got to run tight systems to have a tight CRM. So when you hit those numbers in the morning, then it's appointments in the afternoon. Um, I've built my business by just me getting in front of people and people I meet, people I know, past clients. Um, there's no wrong way to get a lead, uh, whether it's a referral partner or it's a meeting them at Starbucks or calling for sale by owners, because if you call enough for sale by owners, you're going to generate an appointment. If you have a certain amount of appointments, you're going to generate a listing. You have a certain amount of listings, you're going to generate a sale. So you have to figure out what your numbers are, because there is no wrong way to get a lead.
I love it.
But for me, now I need to kind of scale up even more and maybe have someone doing calling for me to tee up to kind of do the surgeon role. But if I was a brand new agent, I don't care what direction it is, whether it's 2 open houses every weekend or I'm going to go sign up for a calling service. I'm going to call around every listing that my company has. You talk to enough people, you are going to get an appointment. You get enough appointments, you will get a
I
contract signed.
love this mindset. So good. So good. A couple things that you said that I completely agree with, and I have to kind of walk a lot of people off a cliff most of the time, which is that everything works with enough volume and consistency. Because a lot of people will say, like, tried it, doesn't work. Facebook doesn't work, content doesn't work, cold calling doesn't work. I've tried it. When in reality, I always say, like, everything works. I've tried
Everything works.
everything under the sun. It's just how much effort are you willing to put into it. Second thing that I love that you said is consistency. Doing it over and over and over again. Doesn't matter what you do, just commit to it. I love your mindset, your approach on this stuff. Um, and I love what you said about everything working. My question for you now, if we go, this is a good transition point to go into content, because content is very similar in this vein of you post a video, it gets 10 views. A lot of people are discouraged by that. They don't continue. Whereas in your reality, it's like, okay, well, how do I get better? How do I post more? How do I learn faster? Let me figure out what works, what doesn't work. Walk us through what you've learned so far. I know that, for example, Instagram, like short form content, might be on the newer side of things that you've been working on developing. But
Sure.
I know that you
Yeah.
have I know that you have past experience with content, at least when it comes to webinars, when it comes to maybe
Yeah.
other forms of content. What have you learned throughout these past couple of years about content? What's your mindset going into it in 2026?
Yeah. I mean, I remember hearing 5, 6, 7 years ago, video, video, video,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't doing it then. So about a year and a half ago, if I see something that I like and that I care about, and I see that as a trend that is working and is a part of the future, I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to go all in on that. So that was a couple years ago. All right. I pay for, I get video on pretty much every listing now.
Mm-hmm.
My company has 160, 170 agents, and very few. It's hard to be on camera, right?
Sure.
It's hard to be on camera. I, I was talking to someone about this recently, but you start, you suck, you figure it out, you get better. That's
Yes.
it. That's where it done. So, and then trying to know, all right, I'm going to be on video. So we're going to pay the extra. The point of video for me is not to get followers, not to get leads. I mean, that's part of getting leads, to be able to service more people, sure. But pay to get video to have the seller to have a better chance of selling their house, to get more visibility, to service your clients.
Mm.
So I've started kind of doing video on every listing, trying to know that, all right, you're a real estate agent, but
Mm-hmm.
trying to build a brand, right? So
Mm-hmm.
people want to see you doing stuff, talking about what you're going through. Uh, and of course I mean, some people are very natural and they can pick up a lot of clients. Some, you got to just every day work at it, get a little bit better. If it's something that you care about, which I do, all right, you want to script it out. You want to practice it. You want to get more natural. You want to have a conversation like cameras in front of you, but
Hmm.
just like we're having here, just like you're talking to a friend, and that's what people care about. And that's it's been working. And you can ads work, and it all works if you do it, and you can't. Like, I realized this a long time ago that you've got to spend, you got to spend to make, right? You
Totally.
you have to spend, and you can't measure that after one video. You can't measure that after a month. You do it on every one, then you measure it. What's it look like after a year? What's it look like after 2 years?
Hmm.
And then I had a business Instagram account that I started a couple years ago, but I was posting my stuff on my personal account, and that's quadrupled in followers in less than a year with some paid ads work,
Yes.
but some just you post, right? You got under 1,000 followers, you got to be posting 3 to 5 times a week. You have
There you
more
go.
than that, you're doing 3 to 5 times a day.
There you go.
And I even thought, you got to get over yourself, right? You
Hmm.
got to get over yourself of the people that unfollow because you're posting too much. They're not a part of your tribe anyway.
Hmm.
So it's
It's
okay.
funny because like I'm in that boat that you're describing. The people that are posting 3 to 5 times a day. I'm posting multiple times a day, every day, and a lot of times I will repost videos that I just posted 2 weeks ago. And what I've found, and this seems to be consistent with everyone that I talk to as well, is man, my followers don't care. Like they don't. It's not like they're inspecting my page, 24/7. Like
No.
if you lose followers or whatever, like the fear of what people will think about you is completely in your head because these people, like I follow so many people, and a lot of the times they come up on my feed and I go to their page and I haven't watched the last 100 videos that they've posted. It's just like, oh, you just came up out of the blue, like no problem. People are just not like inspecting, for example, my feed or anyone else's feed as much as we like to, conjure up in our heads. So I totally agree with this. Just kind of like post more, do more
Well,
mentality.
if you're gonna do something, going half in doesn't ever work. You can you
Exactly.
can get you can get lucky if you want to post video on one in every 10 listings. Maybe you get lucky and it goes viral. But
Yep.
the truth that sometimes you learn the hard way is no one really cares, right?
Yes.
No, you got
Yes.
to get over yourself. No one
Yes.
really cares. You got to figure out what you want, figure out what it's going to take, figure out who you are, and you can't do the right thing. You can't lose.
Now, I know you were saying with video, you think about it from a branding perspective first. How can I get my seller, to get as many eyeballs on the listing and see, that I have good representation on the property and hopefully get it sold. And that the main goal isn't necessarily for views, followers, or even sometimes leads on the account. But I am curious, I think with your experience, you probably have encountered a situation where you have gotten some business or at least generated a conversation or two from content, whether that be your webinar, whether that be from Instagram content, whether that be an
Yeah.
ad or a listing video. And so I'm curious, do you have any stories that you can share of a video, a webinar, anything related to digital content that generated some fruitful conversations for you?
Yeah. So the webinar, it's I got two different answers for that.
Yeah, of
But
course. Go ahead.
what the best part about the webinar is that what I've been working on and the talk I gave there was, if you make it, you can be whatever you want to be. Period. You can get to wherever you want to get. And I've basically doubled my career high in sales in a year of over a 15-year career. You can do that. And so through the webinar, I had 5 or 6 agents on, saw it, reached out to me on, DM'd me. I was able to give kind of, I guess, coaching calls, whatever, but you got to find it. You got to find it in you, and you got to really find out what you want. Then, so that was being able to help others is like what I wasn't really expecting in this process. And now that's what I'm learning is, people you impacting other people's lives while also, I had one of my contractors and buddies called me a couple weeks ago and, is saying, I'm watching your videos. You're everywhere. Right. And so that's the point. That's the point is to be everywhere and to be, be seen, right?
Mm-hmm.
See and be seen while like I'm just living my life, right? My days are only doing exactly what I want to be doing, which is trying to be the best I can be today and help as many people as I can and try to play a little bit of golf and pickleball and go to some basketball games.
There you go.
But it's been, people comment and to hear that at least they're watching it, right?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Let's go back a little bit. We talked about the content in the webinar. Are there a couple of things when we think about this turning point where you go from just a couple homes a year that you're selling to, again, now you're pacing on 50? Are there a couple, maybe 2 to 3 highly important activities that you changed in your inputs to get you to where you're at now? I'm sure there might be a couple that come to mind of like, I know that when I started doing this, X happened. And when I started doing this, Y happened. Does anything come to mind when I
Yeah, I mean, one thing. So you can't. One thing that I've had to really hone in on, especially in recent times, is you can't get it all in a day, right? So you don't. We all, I think it's really important to be really vision oriented and see that future and see what's coming before it happens, right? So you've got to be very vision oriented while also knowing that's not going to happen. You're at level 3. You can't measure yourself against the guy at level 8 then you got the guy at level 1 who's measuring himself against you. So I've tried to stay in like, it's quarter 2 starts today and quarter 1 just wrapped, but like I'm not guessing anymore. I know what I need to tighten up and I know where leverage can happen and where to keep doing it well. So I think trying to really just stay in it, knowing that, how do you get what you really want? You get what you really want by one day at a time. That's it. One day at a time. You also have self-admitted that for a long time I was half in this real estate business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Half in I want to be a top producer and I want to be number 1 or I want to have all these trophies or whatever. And like now I learned the reward is actually the work. The reward's the day. The reward is helping people.
Winning the day, yeah.
Winning the day. So, you go back. Actually, we're gonna I think bring an intern in next month. So we interviewed him this week, and that's you got to start without stopping. And look, there's never gonna be. You want to change some things. You want to get started doing something. You're never gonna feel ready ever.
Mm-hmm.
You're never gonna feel ready. You're never gonna feel comfortable. But you just put your shoes on like everybody else does, and you go.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is you figure it out when you get there, and that the courage of doing it doesn't come right before you do it. It comes when it's done.
I love it.
So hopefully that kind of answered that.
No, it does. It does. Totally. I love what you said about winning the day. I think about that pretty much on a daily basis for myself. Again, as someone that's actively in sales, I totally agree with everything you're saying, where it's like, okay, I can't be thinking about the end goal of the year. I can only be thinking about what are the actions that I know I need to take today so that I can get one step closer where I need to be a year from now. So 100%.
And there's no excuses about anything, right? You really can be wherever you want to get to.
Yeah.
It's not going to be overnight,
Yep.
but the stuff compounds, right?
Yeah.
And then it kind of you can do anything, and I believe that.
And I love what you said about the follow up too. Going back to that, because I think as I'm talking to you throughout this conversation, I can tell that one of the factors, at least in my mind, is that you tightened up your tracking. Like everything came down to numbers. I need to know, like I know I need to put on a pen and paper, how many conversations I'm having a day. I need to really tighten that up. The other thing that you mentioned is that, you're following up with these past clients. You have them really in a CRM, all tight knit, where
Mhm.
if it's a 1 year house anniversary or 3 months since their whatever, a wedding just happened, or all these special events you have duly noted for every single contact. And what that allows for you to do is this intentional follow up where I talk to a lot of realtors a lot of times where it can be kind of confusing on what do I do here? How do I continue a conversation when the conversation is in my head over? AKA the home has been sold, they had moved into whatever the case is,
Yeah.
or maybe even just at the beginning of the sales process. Let's say, for example, this happens a lot with realtors that I talk to that get leads from maybe ads or content. They spark up a conversation with maybe they want to see whatever they're offering. Maybe they want more information on a home that's just listed or a custom list of homes or a neighborhood guide. And then the realtors will say, well, now what? Like, how do I continue to have a conversation without just saying, hey, I'm just checking in? And I think one of the things that you really mentioned that I want to circle back on and double down here on this call is that you have these life events. And this goes to you caring for people. You have these life events, these important things about people that you write, you have noted down, and it gives you reason for you to call someone who already closed on a home a year
Yeah.
ago. Are there, when you're developing these relationships with clients, are there certain things that you look for that to write down, and kind of know in your head like this would be? And again, I don't want to take away from the personal aspect. Obviously, like you are just caring for another individual, but there's also strategy. It would not be wrong to say that you are strategically writing down notes to follow up with after the transaction's over. And so I'm curious on your mindset with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's you learn to listen. I talk, and learn to listen to everyone's different, right? Everyone sees the world through their lens. They're thinking about what they want, how they feel. So, kind of really learn to listen and be a trusted advisor to them, right? I mean, yes, it's writing contracts and it's showing houses, but it's like these are where these people are raising their families and moving from a childhood home or selling a childhood home. So trying to just really care about and listen to what matters to them about the process. And then because if for I ran 10 years of my or longer than 10 years, 10, 15 years of my career without having a CRM, and you do that, then you don't know who you've talked to. You don't know when to follow up with them, why to follow up with them. Um, there is a lot of real estate trainers, never too busy for a referral. You know anyone looking to buy or sell? And there are times and places for that, but the ninja training forward, ask them about themselves, call genuinely because you care about them and want to know what's going on in their lives. And likely it will come back. How's the market? Oh, my cousin might be moving to Virginia, whatever. But build real conversations with people, truly care. And then it's a numbers game. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be able to sell what I'm selling if I was only reaching out to 5 or 10 people a day. But,
Sure.
you hit the numbers, then you can run tight systems, run a tight CRM. So then I can do what I do best, which is just building relationships with people to be their trusted advisor and friend or whatever. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Drew, we are approaching the end of our episode today. What I want to do to end off our conversation is 3 lessons that you've learned in 30 seconds. So the top 3 lessons that you've learned to go from a couple homes a year to where you're at now in the next 30 seconds. What would those be? I'll give you some time to think about it.
You say, think about it for a second.
Yeah, feel free to just take a moment. We'll pause here and yeah.
So the way you win the day is 24 hours at a time, right? You can't get what you want without staying in it 24 hours at a time and not worrying about anything but the day in front of you. That's number one. That's helped me learning to use leverage and systems as much as possible. Of just, I was fortunate enough to hire an assistant last year, but to be able to kind of, when you grow your business, to be able to pay a TC to leverage helps you scale. And then, well, that's 2.
One more. Yep.
Know your numbers. That's it.
There you go.
Know your numbers. So
I love it. I love it. Drew, thank you so much for this episode. Is there anything that you want to give to the audience at home listening where they can find you, what you got coming up, anything like that? Now's your time to shout out anything you want to.
Yeah, my Instagram, Drew Cheely RVA, love to connect on there. Realtors follow you back as well, support you. Feel free to DM anytime on any specific questions. And look, we got a fast changing world, right? It's a fast changing world. Life's going to be a lot different than a year ago. I know we did not really talk AI in this particular,
we're gonna have to do a second episode.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be,
yeah,
if you got to figure it out to stay in front of the game, because changes are coming, but like the reward is just the chance to have this conversation, the chance to make the next call, to detach from outcomes of, you get bad news all day, every day. I could do a condo listing flooded yesterday, flooded the day of inspection. Well, solve the problem, right? And know that you can get whatever you want to get if you'll just stay with it long enough. But reach out, love to hear from you. And Sean, appreciate the time.
Thank you, Drew. Everyone listening at home, thank you again for tuning in to the Buyers on Demand podcast. The reception that we've heard from everyone has been awesome. So really appreciate your time and effort. And Drew, I think we're probably going to do another episode.
Would love to.
We can talk about. So
love to. All right, quarter 2, guys. Best of luck.
Quarter 2. All right, everyone.
All right. Cheers.
Bye-bye.